Today I want to tell you about the best database of 2025 and the next coming years probably as well. The database itself is called Convex, and I recently migrated my AI chat app, which is called Shiori, to Convex. And let me tell you, I'm more happy than ever with the performance and the speed of the app. It's actually insane how much of an improvement I saw. It's also extremely stable, but that's not the only cool thing about it. The developer experience is absolutely amazing. Let me show you. So we're now inside of the code base for Shiori, which is a Next.js app that uses Convex and their native authentication called Convex Auth. And the first thing that'll catch your eye in this entire code base is this Convex folder. And this is the very cool thing about Convex. Everything lives inside of your repository, including the schema, TypeScript functions which are deployed on their end, and a bunch of other stuff. So let's have a look at it. If you open it, you'll see this generated folder, which is the compiled server and the API functions. And this is most of the time where you will be importing stuff from. Then if you have a look at, for example, I don't know, the users, or actually let's first have a look at the schema, which is in convex/schema.ts, and it looks like this basically. You can import define schema, define table from convex-server, auth tables, which are the tables for the authentication specifically, so that's users, auth sessions, and more. And then we import v, which is the values. So for example, v.optional, which makes an attribute optional, and you can obviously specify the type here. And the cool thing about this is it adds automatic type safety using TypeScript. So you don't even have to worry about custom types or interfaces. They literally do all that for you. And it's all inside of this generated folder. Obviously, you can define indices as well. For example, on the user, I have the email. Now let's actually take a look at the users.ts file. So here, for example, I have a get current user function, which returns the current user. Now you can get the authenticated user by calling get auth user ID, which gets you the user ID only. Then you have to call the context parameter, which is passed into the handler, and then call the .get method, which returns you the user. Now this looks probably very new to you, and it did to me as well in the beginning, don't worry. But the concept itself is very easy to understand. So to fetch data, you use queries most of the time. And to call these queries from the front end, use a hook called useQuery, which is used, for example, in the chat page. And if you have a look at where it's called, we call the current user by saying api.users.getCurrentUsers, and if you have a look at where that's imported from, we can actually see this is imported from the generated folder. And the reason that you need to use useQuery is because Convex is a real-time reactive database, which means it updates on its own. You don't have to keep calling fetch methods or anything like that to update your client-side data. It literally handles all of that for you, which is genuinely just amazing. Now this is for the front end, and if you want to call a query from the backend, use the fetch query method, which is used here as well, but just an use effect. And it's basically the same. Now query is one type of operation you can do. There are also mutations and actions. I won't be showing you more of this entire code base, but for example, mutations are like queries, but you also generate or change data. Actually, let me show you real quick. So if you have a look at where mutation is called, it's basically the same definition style. You just use mutation instead. And again, this is literally the same syntax, just change the name right here. And if you have a look at where this is called, you can see here, and you also have a use mutation function here, which you pass the update profile to. Then you also have actions. I won't be covering that right now because I haven't really used them myself as of now, but actions are meant for things that you have to include third parties into. Because inside of queries and mutations, you can't call third-party APIs because it all runs on their server and they're probably not risking that. And there's also a bunch of technical reasons why it's not possible to do that. So you need to use actions if you want to call third-party APIs. And you can read all of this in the documentation, by the way. Their documentation is one of the best docs that I've honestly ever seen. So if you go to docs.convex.dev, which is their docs website, you can see all these starter kits right here. And if you're like me, I obviously would recommend going with Next.js, or you can use React, Remix, 10stack Start, which I am planning to learn. I've heard a lot about 10stack, and obviously all our favorite Bun. Seriously, if you're not using Bun in 2025, what is wrong with you? But yeah, they kind of go over everything here again, what the mutation, what a query is. Well, not here actually, here they just show you how to use it. Not in the quick start guides, but in the docs themselves, they explain what they are. That's crazy, you can even use Rust with Convex. I did not know that. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of share Convex with you since this is genuinely such cool technology, and I've seen a lot of potential with it, especially because of the hooks and the developer experience. I haven't really seen a database like it, and again, it's not just a database, it's also your entire backend in a sense. Because if you have a look at my API routes, there's not that many. And if you watched one of my previous videos, you'll know that these were way more back in the day. Like I was using Firebase Auth, MongoDB, and they had this whole complex syncing algorithm that created a MongoDB user if someone signed up through Firebase. It was a whole mess. But with Convex, all my users live inside of the database, so I don't have to worry about somehow integrating them. You can also use, for example, Clerk as the auth provider. I just preferred going with the native one just because it seems like they'll stick with it more. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, like the video, and if you want to give Shiori a try, here's a 80% off discount for the first month, and I'll see you tomorrow.